YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and I'm talking NFL offseason once again. This video is for the AFC South. We went through all the AFC divisions. We're going to do NFC next week, and we're basically talking who teams should or could cut, who they could trade, what their cap situation is like now, what it could look like going into free agency, so maybe some scenarios here and there. So again, we did all the AFC divisions. This is the last one. We're doing NFC divisions next week. We also got some free agency prediction videos coming up talking about each free agent, where their potential landing spots are, and where we actually think they're going to end up. We're going to talk about the guys that could be traded too. Antonio Brown, Case Keenum, Nick Foles, guys like that, where we think they will end up. So lots of fun off-season, free agency, NFL draft content here at the Goat House all the time. Check out our Twitter. Plenty of talk on there. Link in the description for that. Link in the description for the Instagram as well. We have some new merch. Link in the description as well for that. And our subscriber goal is 20K. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we got plenty of NFL coverage all year round. During the season, we got in-season predictions, power rankings, all kinds of fun stuff. So please give us a follow. Clicking the like button, we much appreciate as well. But to the video, we're using this website. Link in the description for this, spotrac.com. Very useful. Gives us the exact numbers. I wouldn't be able to give you these exact numbers if it wasn't for this website. So we're using this once again. You can check it out by clicking that link in the description. We're going to start with the Texans here in the AFC South. Take a look. They got $75.6 million in cap room, which is very impressive because usually the teams with this much cap room, don't have some star power here. And they got J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson's on his way up there. So very impressive here for the Texans. They're able to make some big moves, perhaps. They definitely need another receiver. Demaryius Thomas is supposed to go. They need offensive line, though. I expect them maybe to get one or two in free agency, but mainly look at the draft because they don't have too many big needs. I think they could use a running back for the future. Like I said, receiver. Some DBs are free agents. Looking at Matthew, could use some more corners. But, it's nothing that's like glaring needs besides offensive line. Looking at the top, though, Kevin Johnson's one that pops out to me. Hasn't really lived up to the hype, but still can play. And it's tough to release him because you could use more DBs. You could use more corners. Some guys are going to be free agents, but we'll just take a look to see what happens. Go from $75 million to $84 million, but, I think you could trade him. I think you could trade him for a late-round pick. It's a tough situation, though. The corner class is pretty deep. I don't know if there's really a star corner in the draft. A couple big-name guys, but Kevin Johnson's a tough one. I think another guy that stands out is Whitney Merciless. Can play, but, kind of seems to come up hurt here and there. I think they cut him, brings it to 81. They don't necessarily need to make these moves, but, just to be a little safe, comfortable situation. I think they can go for guys like Le'Veon Bell in free agency. You can look at the receivers too, Golden Tate, Tyrell Williams. Do you want to bring in one of those guys? I think the receivers will be just fine if Will Fuller can stay healthy. I think he's very good. Can't seem to stay healthy, unfortunately. And you got to make room for the offensive lineman you're going to go for in free agency, offensive lineman you're going to go for in the draft. Do you want to bring Tyrann Mathieu back? I don't know if they do. Maybe Earl Thomas is on their radar. I think they're set at the linebacker position. Could use another couple D linemen here. They have needs. They're just not that glaring besides offensive line. So I think Merciless could be out because you do want to bring a good amount of guys in here through free agency and the draft. Other guys, the mistake that teams make when it really applies to any position, but in the Texans' sake here, take a look at the offensive line. You have a lot of guys here that can play, but they're not starting caliber. That's why they need offensive linemen. They don't really have the starters, maybe a couple of them. So you may say, and some teams may do this at times, these guys can't start, so let's cut him. I disagree with that. Offensive line's a position group that you need to have third stringers active in the roster because these guys get hurt. You need the depth. You need guys that can rotate, that can play either tackle, guard, or guard and center. So the guys that can't start, and maybe if they have a ridiculous contract, maybe you can drop them, but I think you can use as backups because O-line, there's a shortage on offensive linemen, and then that means there's a big shortage on good offensive line depth. So the guys that really weren't the best starters last year, those guys are good rotation guys, good, or not rotation, but depth guys in case somebody gets hurt or if you need to rotate in, So I think you keep these guys. I don't think you really should cut any of them. There's not some crazy contracts here. It's hard to come across the O-line. You don't know what's going to fall to you in the draft. They pick kind of late in the first round. You could get a solid guy in the second, third round too. But I think, safe side. Some of these guys can start and some of these guys would be good depth. I don't really agree with, cutting these guys just because they can't start. To me, that makes no sense. So I don't know if too many cuts happen here. Andre Hall is one to monitor. I would keep him here. You can make some. Yeah, I think Ryan. It's tough. I think Ryan Griffin can go. He could bump it up to $84 million. It's tough because he could be a solid blocking tight end. I think you can get an upgrade in the draft, even if it's mid rounds here. So I think you can let him go. Some of these guys in here, it's not going to cut too much space here. You could go here. You can go. It bumps up to 87. Like I said, you got two centers here. You don't need to keep too many centers. If you can trade some of these guys, that's not enough. It's not enough. It's not worth it. You already have $87 million cap space here. These guys definitely not worth cutting. Some good depth guys. Some guys that step up, like Kute was just a rookie last year. Back up to Kevin Johnson though. Do they need? It's tough because $87 million is plenty, but do they want to go for Le'Veon Bell, Earl Thomas, guys like that? Do they want to go big for another tight end, another D lineman? I mean, they could go big in free agency, and they if they say they want to win now, which you would think the Texans do want to do, before it's too late. But you do have your young quarterback. But Kevin Johnson, can you trade him? What's a team you can trade him to? I'd say the Falcons is a possibility. The Panthers. We'll take a look at the Panthers. I think the Redskins pop up in my head too. But if you trade them to the Panthers, you gain a late round pick, $9 million saved in cap. You have $96 million. So I expect them to have in that 80 to 96 range. Maybe that's a little much. That's probably top notch there if you get rid of or trade a lot of these guys. So above 80, I expect them to have in cap. Plenty of cap. Very impressive for the Texans. So let me know your guys' thoughts if you're Texans fans out there, what you should do. Some guys are kind of borderline there. You're not really sure what you should do with some of these guys. But moving on, the Colts, a team I don't think, another impressive team with the cap situation, $105 million in cap room, which is ridiculous how good they were last season. I don't think they really need to make a bunch of moves here. Obviously they're not paying anybody too much. Luck gets a lot as he should. T.Y. Hilton gets a lot as he should. Not really a lot of money spent here and there, and you don't really need to make too many moves. Look at Darius Leonard was a second-round pick last year, dominant second-round pick. He's 15th on their roster in terms of taking up cap space here. I think the only one that's up for discussion here is maybe Jabal Sheard, because does he fit the current defense? I think he does. I think he can play DN. He's listed as outside linebacker, but he's playing DN in the Colts defense. You have young talent that can play the spot. Guys that stepped up. Sheard's very good, I think, still. Not very good, but I think he's pretty good. So you could keep him. Could you trade him for a late round pick? Possibly. More likely, I think, if you were going to do something, I think it would be to cut. Let's just see what happens. It bumps up to 113. The question is, do you need that space? Other question is it worth having a guy where you can save $8 million on the roster because you drafted some good pass rushers last year? You're going to draft more. You got a boatload of picks again. Your thinking is we're going to build this team to the draft, and that would be my thinking too, and it's worked perfectly for the Colts so far. Let's see if it continues. So, why waste $8 million on a guy that might be cut? He still can play, though. So I'd keep an eye on Jabal Sheard. And then another one to keep an eye on is Jacoby Brissett. I want to make that clear. I don't think they trade him, but there's been some rumors that teams will want him. I think he's pretty solid. I was high on him out of NC State. So teams I think you may have to give up something pretty big, though. Second round pick, maybe. I don't think he gets traded. I don't think they want to trade him because luck could be hurt at any time. It's unfortunate, but that could happen. And you want to have a solid backup that knows the offense like Brissett. So I really don't think they trade him. But since it's come up, we'll look at some teams that could use him. Maybe if Cam Newton can't go, I would like him on the Panthers. But I don't know if they'd be willing to spend what the Colts want. Other teams, the Broncos just traded for Flacco. The Jags, I don't think they would trade him in the division. I don't think they want to trade him at all. They wouldn't trade in division. Other teams, the Dolphins could be one. Definitely could be one. So let's say they trade him the Dolphins for a second-round pick. They don't like any of the quarterbacks in the draft, or a good one doesn't fall to them. If Brissett was traded, I think that could be a draft day. You don't see a lot of the big name guys go or quarterbacks get traded on draft day. I think it could happen. So we'll just say, again, don't think it happens, but we'll just say Brissett goes to Miami for a second-round pick. You gain another second-round pick, but the cap space isn't much different. So I think to them it's not really worth it. So we'll reset this. I really don't think they will do that. Second-round pick, a little appealing, but you got to play it safe. What if luck goes down? So, again, we'll take Sheard off. Maybe you can trade him for a late-round pick. I don't know if anybody really wants to pay him $8 million, though. Not too bad. But really, that's really the only thing I do here for the Colts. I don't think they should cut any other backup linemen. You got to keep the depth here. I think they got solid depth guys. They weren't too good 2 years ago starting, but they're good depth guys. You need to have just like I talked about with the Texans. You got to keep the depth guys. These guys don't get paid enough. It's not that much. If you were in a serious cap situation, yeah, cut some of these guys. But you got $113 million cap right now in my situation. So great job with the Colts front office. Continue to build to the drafts. You got the tools to do it. You got the picks to do it. So not much going on here for the Colts. I think they can trade or cut Sheard. I think that makes sense to me. A lot of these guys, there's really no reason to. They're good players. I think guys they can be going for with the $113 million cap. Le'Veon Bell stands out. Do they want that attitude in there? A guy that took a whole year off, maybe doesn't have the passion some of these other guys do. Because I think this is a passionate team. It's a team. So do they want that? Would they trade for Antonio Brown? They need some DBs. Would they want to bring Earl Thomas in there? Landon Collins? Not too many corners. Not too many corners that are stand out in free agency. I think they'll look to the draft for that. Could they bring in a couple more D linemen? I would like Frank Clark. I would like Frank Clark in the Colts defense at the DN spot. I would like that a lot. He may get franchise tagged. But to me that seems like a fit. I think Trey Flowers too. Trey Flowers, Frank Clark, to me fit. They have the cap to do that and go for a Le'Veon Bell. Don't know if it happens, but a guy I like their running backs. They don't have no elite running. Marlon Mack's really coming together. I liked him a lot of South Florida. They got a couple guys that can play. So, if you're going to go get a running back, I guess it better be somebody with the skill of Le'Veon Bell. You're not going to go out there. I like Tevin Coleman. I don't think you're going to go out there and do that. You got Marlon Mack. Tevin Coleman's a little better. Marlon Mack's younger, heading in the same direction, could be better in the near future. No reason for it. But again, if I'm in that front office, I don't think we want Le'Veon Bell. And I think I've heard that from that front office. I think we've heard them say that. So I don't know. I think it's a possibility, but they could use another receiver too. Golden Tate, too much like Hilton. I guess it's not bad to have both of them. I think both guys can play in any offense pretty much. I think that's why Hilton's so good. But maybe they go for a Tyrell Williams. There's not too many receivers that stand out. I think the only ones are Golden Tate and Tyrell Williams, which I do think Williams may get overpaid. He could work on does have some drops a little bit, but he can play. He's good downfield guy. I think he's, they like Dontrell Inman, and he came from the Chargers too. Similar style player, but he's a better version of Dontrell Inman, and Inman played pretty well for the Colts. So I think Tyrell Williams is the guy that will look for. A couple DBs, any corners become available. We'll see. Moving on, though. Next team, the Jags. Jags got some interesting ones here for sure. We'll see what we can do. Blake Bortles right off the bat. Don't think you can trade him. They're going to cut him. They go from, I went a little fast there. They're at -8.3 cap situation. Not good. Definitely not good. All the money they give Bortles, but they cut him. You don't save as much as you would think, but you still bring it down, but you're still in the negative. -3.8. You got to make room for Nick Foles here. That's the game plan. Pretty obvious. Here's another one. I think they get rid of Marcel Darius. I think they drafted Tevin Bryan for a reason last year. I think he can step up. I think he can be good down the line. So let's drop Marcel Darius there. Can you trade him? I think they're more likely to drop him. $10 million would be the cap figured, over $10 million. So I don't know if anybody would trade for him. Maybe a late round pick. But I think dropping him is more likely. The chances there. So $6.7 million. You're looking pretty good. And again, that cap space is for this year only. It's not beautiful, but you went from pretty easily in two things we expect to happen. You went from -8 or wherever it was to 6. Another guy we'll come back to him is Malik Jackson. I think he's on the hot seat there. I think DJ Hayden could go. I'm never a big fan of DJ Hayden. Maybe they're shorter on corners though, but you can easily upgrade and get a mid-round guy that I think could be better, honestly. So that bumps up to 8.6. You need anything you can get here. I know you only save 1.8 with the DJ Hayden cut, but everything makes sense here. Leonard Fournette, there was rumors they can trade him. Don't think it happens. I think you should keep a lot of these linemen for depth purposes. Carlos Hyde, bad trade. I think you cut him here. 13 mil, just like that. 8 to 30, 4.7 mil you save. I did not like that trade at the time. Don't like it now. Can you cut some of these safeties? I don't know if it's worth it here. Tavin Bryan right here, he's going to step up this year. Yeah, I think these guys, it's mainly at the top where you're paying all your money. I then back to Malik Jackson. You're at $13 million. I think this team was just in the AFC Championship 2 years ago, and people are writing them off. I hate that. People forget, I think. I think the new teams get in their head, and they automatically assume the new teams are going to be good. Just like the Jags were kind of that new team. They made it to the AFC Championship. Automatically assume they were going to be good last year, but then they go complete opposite. No chance they can be good because they were just terrible last year. Wrong. You can't be any more wrong. I'm not saying they're going to be great, but this team's a quarterback away from maybe being great. So I think you just really need, and don't forget you have the draft. How many rookies the last few years stepped up, made an impact right away. So I think getting it just to $13 million, it might be enough. You get Nick Foles in there, you backload it, a little bit. You don't have to pay him like nothing in the front part of the contract. You can make it work. Do you have to trade for him though? That's the other question. We'll talk about more of that in our specific Nick Foles video, which will be coming in the next few days. We got Antonio Brown, Case Keenum, guys like that as well, big time free agents. But I think you can bring in a guy like Foles and then build the rest for the draft. You don't really need to build. You just need to get depth through the draft. Maybe you can need to get another D lineman, maybe another backup corner, but I think you get in a receiver. Offensive line, I think is okay if it stays healthy. You can grab another one there. Everyone has a good amount of draft picks for a reason here. But back to Malik Jackson, I think you can trade. That's a lot of money, but I think you can trade Malik Jackson. Maybe his talent is, let's say his talent, could be. Nobody would give up a second, third, fourth round pick, but then looking at his contract, drops it down a little bit. So maybe a fifth or a sixth rounder. Which team would like him? I think right off the bat, he can. The good thing about Malik Jackson is he can go play 3-4 end or he can play 4-3 D tackle. So I think the first two teams right off the bat, honestly, I think the Cardinals could use him, and they're supposed to be switching to a 3-4. Then they can play him at DN. The Falcons may lose Grady Jarrett, and if they get Grady Jarrett back, they can use somebody beside him. I don't think Malik Jackson's good beside him. I think he'd be, if they know they're losing Grady Jarrett, I think Malik Jackson would be a great replacement there. I think Dan Quinn would like him a lot too. We're only into the first two teams. I think a lot of teams would like him. I think the Bears would like him at end. Don't think they have the cap room to do it. You can go through he fits pretty much everywhere. So maybe they can get a better pick than we think, but he does have a pretty big contract. The Rams, he would fit opposite of Donald. The Vikings would love him at D tackle, but they don't have enough cap. The Dolphins is that's a good one. That's a good one for sure because they need D-line help bad, but they may need to trade for a quarterback potentially. Let's send them to the Dolphins for on the top of my head, I don't know what exact round picks the Dolphins have. 4th or 5th round pick, because they need them pretty bad, I think. So we'll trade him away. That saves $11 million. You're up to $24 million in cap. Plenty of room to do some stuff here. Plenty of room. Get the quarterback. Get Nick Foles. If it's not Nick Foles, maybe you draft a Haskins or a Drew Lock, or maybe you can pick up somebody else. But I think this team can get back. You got to get the quarterback. Fournette needs to stay healthy. Depth at the O-line, depth at receiver, depth at corner. It sounds like a lot, but it's really not. You have free agency and you have the draft. You can build through the draft. I'm a full believer in that. And last few years, young guys been stepping up, helping teams win. Win now. So definitely an interesting team is the Jags, and I think this all makes a lot of sense. Maybe they keep Malik Jackson. Maybe just because they traded Hyde, they're invested in him too much. That could be, bad move. But I understand, I guess. DJ Hayden, maybe you could keep him for the corner. Yeah. So maybe if you do go, I think Bortles and Darius are gone. And I think if you do get rid of Hyde and Malik Jackson, I think then you can keep DJ Hayden because then it looks like, well, it's only 1.8. But back when we did it, 1.8 was a lot, if you know what I mean there. I don't like DJ Hayden that much, but he's a good depth guy, good rotation guy. Corner depth's very important. So we'll see. On to one more team here for the AFC South, and that's Tennessee Titans. Another interesting team because they may need a quarterback. I like Mariota a lot. I think he's very talented, but he needs to stay on the field. So do they need to bring in a quarterback? That's the question. I already know people are going to say Malcolm Butler had a terrible year. Get rid of Malcolm Butler. Number one, the end of the year he played pretty darn good, I thought. Beginning of the year was terrible. All right, didn't live up to hype, nowhere near. End of the year, I thought he was pretty good, honestly. And then look what happens. They gave him a pretty big contract, which still not going to bash that too much yet. And you lose. It's -5 on the savings, so you don't do that. You don't need to do it, and you don't do it anyways. So before anybody says that, the Titans know what they're doing over there. They know that it's not a question. Cyprian's the guy that comes up. I like Cyprian. He's a good box player. They did kind of miss him at times, but he was hurt. Do you want to pay him this much? When you do, you brought in Vaccaro, so you got other safeties. You drafted Cruikshank. Do you want to keep him on? He can help the team. He flies around to the ball. I like that a lot. But let's just say you have $34 million cap too. I don't know if the Titans really need to do much because 34 is a lot for them. I think they have a pretty complete team. I just don't know if they have any star power besides Luan and Casey. Got maybe some guys that are heading that way. But I think that's the reason that injuries and maybe not enough star power is why the Titans can't take the next step. I think, looking at the roster healthy, it's definitely a playoff team. So you don't really need to make too many moves. You need pass rushers. I think they would love Zadarius Smith from the Ravens if they let him go. They would love Clowney. Don't think the Texans let him go to the Titans, especially with the Texans cap space. So I think those two guys to look for. Any other ones that pop in my mind here? They could use a D end. They definitely could use a receiver. Golden Tate is glaring one that, definitely I think they would like Golden Tate. So maybe you need to clear a little space if you want to get, we'll say, I don't think Clowney ends up going to Tennessee. They would love to have him. They may offer him. They very well should offer him. I think you could see them going, if not franchise tag, you can go for a Zadarius Smith, and you can go for a Golden Tate, and then build through the draft, get D linemen, get pass rushers there. Maybe trade. I had some scenarios in other videos, I think, where the Titans could trade for a defensive end. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of 3-4 DNs that can become available via trade. So you can use the later picks for them to take on their contract. So you maybe want to clear a little bit of space, but it's not a 100% necessary. I think the only one I really look at, Cyprian, that brings us to 39 mil, almost 40 mil. So you're looking pretty good. Some other guys that stand out to me. Dion Lewis, I don't think they cut. I'm going to say that right off. I do not think they cut him. But you could get a replacement of Dion Lewis through the draft, I think. Cheaper. I think like a Justice Hill from Oklahoma State stands out. Dion Lewis, I don't think they kind of forced him a little too much. I didn't know if he had the best year. He's definitely still good. I, again, don't think they cut him, but it's an option. That would bring it to 42. I don't think they do it, though. Could they get rid of a guy that they're pretty stacked inside linebacker? Could they get rid of a guy like Darren Bates? I think he plays on special teams, though. You could save 2.2. I don't know if it's really necessary. Tajay Sharp, they could get rid of him, but he's too young and he looked promising in the past. Not the best year last year. Doesn't save too much. So I don't know if this is really necessary to. They have a ton of inside. Like Carrera, I like. Didn't really play too much. So I think Bates is good on special teams though. So I don't know if they do that. They got a lot of good guys down here that don't get paid a whole bunch. Pruitt was brought in there just for depth purposes because there was injuries, and maybe they can get rid of him. $40 million. That's really all I think. I think they could. I would take a look at some of those free agents receivers like Golden Tate. I think fits. The pass rushers, they're going to be in on those pass rushers. I'll tell you what, you have Vrabel from the Texans here at Tennessee. They're going to want Clowney. I don't know if the Texans will let that happen because you look at their cap space, and that would be the why. And they play them every year, twice a year. So I think Zadarius Smith is one that keeps popping in my head from the Ravens. Do they let him go? Do they franchise tag him? Not too many good years from Zadarius Smith. So does he break the bank? Ziggy Ansah, he's known to play. He can play a 3-4 outside linebacker. I wouldn't do it if I was the Titans because he's injury prone. I don't know if he's after the injuries. I don't know if he's as athletic as he once was. So I think he's mainly just a 4-3 end. I don't think you pay him what he wants. I think he's going to want a lot. So I'd stay away from that. D Ford would fit great. I don't think the Chiefs let him go. I think he's a franchise tag guy. So a lot of options here. A lot of options for the Titans. And I would take a look at those 3-4 DNs that could become available via trade. We talked about, I think Leonard Williams is a wild card. You have to trade kind of a higher pick for him. I think Shaq Lawson will be one that you could trade a 7th rounder. I think he would fit perfectly as a 3-4 end for the Titans. A lot of guys, really. Malik Jackson, but I don't think the Jaguars can trade him here. So I think some 3-4 ends could become available. I think there's some D tackles in free agency. Ndamukong Suh, we thought he may go to the Titans before he went to the Rams. Possibly he can come in and play in the D-line. I think Sheldon Richardson, he's capable of playing a 3-4 end spot. He did play I think his best of his career was when he played 3-4 for the Jets. Some teams switched him to 4-3. I think he's good, maybe not as good. So they can go for a guy like that. A lot of options for the Titans. I think they can make they can do some damage here. They can do some damage. I think it's just really on Mariota staying healthy. Again, you could use another quarterback. Gabbert's not terrible, but really you basically want 2 starting quarterbacks because Mariota seems to keep getting hurt. Unfortunate. And you don't want to waste a high draft pick on that with a loaded defensive talent that come in and make an instant impact right away. So, Case Keenum, I don't think they trade for him because they don't want to pay him that to be a backup. I think if he becomes available via free agency, they sit down with him. They tell him, look, yeah, you're going to start as a backup here, but we think you're starting caliber, and Mariota, he has been getting hurt. So unless he gets another offer to be the starting quarterback, I think he can end up here. I think Tannehill would be a good fit behind Mariota. I just don't think it happens. I just want them to go out and get a backup that fits the offense. Like they've had Castle, Gabbert, and they're playing behind Mariota, like 2 totally different quarterbacks. Doesn't even make any sense. But I think I got a pretty complete team. Could use some more big-time players. I think Harold Landry will be a big-time player. Rashaan Evans will be a big-time player. So they're heading in the right direction. And they have a decent amount of cap space. So I look for them to have around $40 million in cap. That's what I expect. Maybe they trade for a guy, like I said. That's kind of a bold prediction, but maybe they do it. And they try to get one of those pass rushers. They can definitely get one in the draft as well. But that's going to do it. That's all 4 teams from this division. We did all the AFC teams, so check out the other divisions. We got NFC next week, and we got free agency landing spots and predictions, along with the trade target guys like Antonio Brown, Nick Foles, Case Keenum. Nick Foles could be a free agent, could be traded if he franchised. We'll see on that. And then we'll talk about the big free agents too, the pass rushers, Le'Veon Bell, all those guys. So we're going to go through a lot of them. Did it last year. I had a blast. We're going to do it again this year. We got plenty of NFL draft content too. So please check all that out if you haven't already. And subscribing would be much, much appreciated. And clicking the like button would be much appreciated. But that's going to do it for this one. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.